Thank you for taking the time to view this video. This is the Trump Pardon Arnold channel, where we're trying to get a pardon for Sheriff Robert Arnold of Rutherford County, Tennessee. He was indicted in 2015, as was I. My name's Joe Russell, and his uncle, John Vanderveer. Today, we wanted to let everybody know that the same Jack Smith that went after President Trump, and also Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty, in the Arctic frost investigations, the phone taps, it's the same guy. There was Jack Smith, Cecil Van Devender. Those were two guys who were working together at the U.S. Department of Justice under the Obama administration and also under the first Trump administration, and they continued to work during the Biden administration. After President Trump came into office, that for the second time, that's when Jack Smith bailed out along with Cecil Van Devender. So, back during the January 6th riots, there was Jack Smith getting phone taps on all the U.S. senators and was learning, I guess, what their intentions were or what they knew about it in the background to see if maybe he could find a way to indict those guys too. Because that's kind of the way that the Department of Justice operates. They will come around if you're going to be a witness or you're a proponent of somebody. They'll come around, knock on your door and be like, hello, we're the FBI, and we'd like to know what you knew about this situation. And if you did know something about it in advance, why didn't you do something about it? Why didn't you alert somebody? What was your involvement in it? And they start getting everybody to hush up because they're being intimidating and also trying to accuse people of crimes that they may or may not have committed. So anyway, Marsha Blackburn was on the Hannity show on Fox News over the weekend talking about how corrupt the Jack Smith was during the Obama administration. And that was during the time that we were indicted. And so the Department of Justice has this great leeway. They can say anything they want and they can do anything they want in court. It's amazing how much leeway they are given. And if you say one little word wrong, if you put a comma in the wrong place as a defendant, you're toast. You have no leeway whatsoever, and the judge will not give you an ounce of grace. Whereas on the other side, the district attorney's office, they can just get away with whatever they want to get away with. And they're there every day doing the job. So you would think that'd be held to a higher standard than us laymen that are coming in there getting dragged into court. Anyway, that's what kills me so much is that these guys have so much immunity. There's no consequences. It costs them nothing to indict you. They don't even lose a wink of sleep because they do it every day. They ruin families. They ruin people's livelihoods. They ruin reputations, and they just don't care, especially if you're a Republican. I know up at the camp where I was at, I took a poll. There was one diehard Democrat, and there was around... in the camp that I was at, there was over 30 major Republican donors. But, our case wasn't about politics. Even though my attorney, Jody Bell Briley, which I didn't know about until I was already at camp, who was the wife of Mayor of Nashville, David Riley, big-time Democrat. And when I kept talking about how political our case was, she kept downplaying it over and over and over again. And so I'm sure Jody's probably mad at me about bringing this up, but, I felt like this was a political hit, and it was. The guy that was their confidential witness number one, Virgil Gammon, the second that Robert was out of office, he announced he was running for sheriff because he was their guy who was out there accusing everything. And I want to make things very clear. He accused the sheriff and I, basically me, of going down to our local jail with electronic cigarettes and selling them to the inmates. Inmates don't have cash. They don't have any money. They don't have access to the internet. We did sell electronic cigarettes, and there's a business out there that still does it today. And Cecil Van Devender, who was also with us, we asked him, we said, do we have a criminal enterprise? And he's like, no, you can continue to do business. Your business is fine. Oh boy. So how in the world did we get prosecuted to start with if our business model was just fine? And we continued to operate up until the day that I left for camp. So, that aside, in the fall of 2014 and early 15, Jack Smith attacked Robert Arnold. And he was probably one of the most popular elected officials in the county. Now, we've been already cleared by the local district attorney, who probably wasn't going to get involved anyway. But the state TBI came in, and they couldn't come up with anything. But that wasn't good enough for some of our local elected officials who had already gotten in big arguments with Robert. That wasn't good enough for them. So they made a few phone calls, who then some people made a few phone calls. Next thing you know, we got the feds knocking on our door. And so things here in this county are just, the way that the county government's run, there's a lot of issues here. That aside, one of the things that during the Arctic frost investigation, or operation, we should say, and the tactics that these guys use, is that for your defense counsel, if you ever do get indicted, and this is something that everybody needs to know, when the U.S. District Attorney's Office meets with your defense counsel, there's a form that's brought in front of their face. It says, oh, by the way, guess what? Your money that you've been paid to do your work by your client are proceeds of a criminal enterprise. Therefore, if your client goes to trial and loses, we're probably going to take those funds. However, if he goes ahead and pleads guilty, well, we'll probably just see our way clear to let you keep those funds. And there's a document signed on that. I've seen the document. Now, there might be some reason for that somewhere. I don't know. But to me, that's an abuse. Because how am I supposed to get effective defense from my counsel that I'm paying all this money to if I'm not going to get a fair shake? Because they're sitting there afraid that they're going to lose their livelihood as well, especially after they spent all this time on this case. Also, if you're a witness, sure enough, they're going to come knock on your door, and they're going to want to know how you're involved, like I've said before. They're going to interrogate you and intimidate you into not being a witness anymore. Seen it happen. The thing that kills me is that, on our case, we had bank statements. I had a bank statement that was changed. We were in the process of donating money to Rutherford County. We didn't have to. We wanted to. There was no contract that said we had to. We wanted to. And we had purchased $8,000 worth of inmate inventory bags from a company. Already had a credit card transaction that showed up on my bank statement. About halfway through trial, that transaction disappeared at the bank. Somebody messed with my bank records. Well, it wouldn't have been me. I don't have that kind of access. But it was very important that we weren't going to make that donation. That was one of the key elements to our case. But we'd already started that process. We'd already made a payment. We had witnesses that helped us make the payment. We had an invoice. Everybody knew what we were buying. But somehow or another, magically, that just needed to disappear, and then all the witnesses were told to hush up. But I had records, and I've still got the witnesses still today who would still testify in court if they had to. So it's those kind of things that with the liberties that Jack Smith has given, I'm not surprised at all about Arctic Frost and them going around wiretapping everybody, because I guarantee you what they were looking to have was they were trying to find some way to lock up Marsha Blackburn and lock up Bill Hagerty, all because they were probably trying to help out their friend, Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump is the greatest president probably we'll ever know, especially in my lifetime, and I've been around since the 60s. If anybody can write the book on Presidenting 101, and I know presidenting's not a word, but it ought to be, because Trump could write the book on it. He is doing presidenting the way presidenting's supposed to be done. And he's getting it done in style, which is the best part. Anyway, if you would like to help us, you got a phone number, old college roommate, anybody that can help us. I'd love to have some help. We're trying to get in touch with Alice Johnson. We're pleading for a pardon. I would love to get in front of President Trump and plead my case. We were a dress rehearsal for what happened to him in 2016 when he came down that escalator and they started going, Russian collusion, collusion, collusion. You know, that's just, that was the beginning, and they had been practicing on us for a couple of years prior to that, and I'm sure that they were probably good at practicing their tradecraft before they even got to us. Anyway, if you can help us, we'd appreciate it. Here comes the website and the email address. And if you've got a moment and can send an attaboy to President Trump, tell him what good job he's doing. Also, if you've got the time and you happen to know Robert Arnold, tell him that you support him as well via email. Thank you for your attention in this matter.